So welcome everybody. I'm very happy to have you here with me today. We are today in the third day of the cycle of webinars that we are realizing in the frame of the project EYES, Antrecomp, to create youth employability and social value. The project that we are running is financed by Erasmus Plus in its youth chapter, and precisely under the Key Action 2, the capacity building action, which is an action of the Erasmus Plus youth, which gives the opportunity to organizations from European Union to cooperate as well with other NGOs that are set in different countries outside in the neighboring areas. So the Eastern Europe and Caucasus, the Western Balkans, and in the case of our project, the South Mediterranean. Precisely, the project EYES, just to remind, also for people that didn't attend last sessions, is coordinated by an Italian organization called TDM 2000, and is including 5 more organizations from Spain, Greece, Tunisia, Jordan, and Egypt. So we are about to start our 5th webinar of the cycle. It's going to be about financial management, and then later on we're going to have another webinar following, which is going to be about communication and community relations, which will be run instead by the organization Seeds from Jordan. That will follow in about 1 hour, which is the duration which is set for the webinar. I remind you, moreover, how to get more information about the project itself, and also to get some additional insights. In the chat, I am sharing 2 links. The first one directly is socialentrepreneurship-youth.eu, and it's the platform that we are developing, which is providing a space for different organizations that are running projects about social entrepreneurship and young people, to have a space where to share tools, good practices, ideas, instruments that can be used for education to social entrepreneurship, or in general to know more about this topic. And the second one, under the same website, but with the in the folder EYES, you can find exactly the website of our project, which is containing the different tools that we developed so far throughout it. It included research on the state of art that we made about the topic of social entrepreneurship and young people. It contains as well the manual with different educational activities done with non-formal education that can be used in order to provide to youngsters in different countries more insights about what is social entrepreneurship and how to become social entrepreneurs. And also, it will contain later on the recording of the webinars that we are doing in these days. So in case you want to rewatch them, or you know someone which is interested and didn't have the chance to follow the live webinars, you have definitely the opportunity to share the links with them, and they will get to know about it. Regarding you, since many people sometimes are asking, you will also receive as subscribers to these webinars a mail later on containing the link to go and watch or download all the webinars of the cycle that we are realizing, which contains 8 webinars. Another very important thing that you can find on the website is the different contacts of the organizations that are partners of this project. Since from January on, there will be pilot actions and pilot workshops taking place in the 6 different countries, Italy, Spain, Greece, Tunisia, Egypt, and Jordan. So in case you would like to take part in these workshops, please check their contacts through the website of the Project EYES, get in touch and try to get the opportunity to be participant in the pilot actions. Before we start with the webinar of the day, just a few reminders about how does it work for the webinar. The first one is to keep your microphone muted so that we can avoid any kind of eventual disturbance to the speakers and presenters which are at that moment providing their presentations. The second one, more than a rule, is also an invitation, which is in case you have any kind of questions, curiosities, something that you would like to contribute with, or any kind of inputs that you would like to share, please feel free to use the chat of Zoom in order to do it and to write it. We might not answer directly to the questions that you might have, but we will make sure to take care about it and answer by the end of the presentation. It should last about 1 hour, including my presentation and the speech of one guest that we have for today. And in the last 10 minutes, we will dedicate time in order to provide the opportunity to answer the questions. So in any moment, you can feel free to write down and you will have the opportunity to ask. With that said, I think we are ready to start. Just give me a minute so that I'm able to share the screen and to show you the presentation of the day. I hope that you are able to see it, and in case there is any kind of trouble with seeing it, please let me know and we will try to take care about it. As I mentioned before, this is the fifth webinar that we have. I see that Christine is saying that we can see this is good. The fifth webinar that we have, and it's about financial management. So starting about what we are going to discuss today, a little summary. So first of all, why we should take care about financial management when it comes to social enterprises. Also financial versus the social impact. So how much these two things are interconnected, intertwined, and if they go against each other. How to start with the finances, then budgeting and monitoring expenditures that we are having, some tips about accountancy and some things that can be useful to keep in mind. Last but not least, how to invest the surplus that we might have from our business. A few words about myself before I start. You maybe saw me in the last days. I'm Federico. I'm the vice president of the organization TDM 2000 in Italy, which is itself a non-governmental organization, which in many cases can be considered as well as a social enterprises, as one of the things that we will be sharing in the next slides is also that the regulations about the definition of this term might vary a lot from country to country, and this is also an invitation for you all to make sure and check what is the exact definition and functioning of this entity in your different countries. I am an entrepreneur myself. I act in the sport sector as an entrepreneur. Also, I work as a trainer with non-formal education since many years for different bodies across Europe and beyond. Therefore, I have several years of experience as well in the field of training. Now, to get started, something to keep in mind and a little bit reminder about definitions. The definition that is given by the European Union about what is a social enterprise. And you can see that here in the slide I put in bold some concepts that are important for what we are going to discuss. So a social enterprise is an operator in the social economy whose main objective is to have a social impact rather than make a profit for their owners or shareholders. So the first concept that we might underline here is that the main objective is to have a social impact. So this should be what we always keep in mind when running a social enterprise. The main objective means, of course, that it's not impossible to have as well several other objectives that might be also fundamental to reach this one. It operates by providing goods and services for the market in an entrepreneurial and innovative fashion, and uses its profits primarily to achieve social objectives. So also, like another important concept here, it provides goods and services for the market. So that means that in this sense, it works in a way which is very similar to what let's call traditional business would do. So in that way, like it doesn't differentiate much. It is managed in an open and responsible manner, and in particular involves employees, consumers, and stakeholders affected by its commercial activities. So once more, I decided to put in bold the fact that it's running commercial activities. Again, like it can be providing of goods or services in a different market, but also that it involves different kind of stakeholders. Another important part of this definition, as I already anticipated a few minutes ago, is that there is not a single legal form for social enterprises. So this depends a lot on the regulations that vary from country to country. Some examples can be social cooperatives or being registered as private companies limited by guarantee. Some are mutual, so they can be like a mixture of both of them, but many are non-profit distributing organizations like societies, associations, voluntary organizations, charities, or foundations of different kinds. So the kind of entity and organization which then is defined as a social enterprise can be very different, and therefore can have also a very different way of accountancy and dealing with its economic income and the different ways in which it achieves its objective. Therefore, what we also have to keep in mind is that a social enterprise is an economic organization. So it's an entity which is working in the economy, and it has expenditures, it has revenues, it has assets, it has a budget and finances. So in this case, of course, these finances needs to be managed in an efficient way. And this is the reason why we cannot afford to run a successful social enterprise, even if our main objective still is to do something good, to have a positive impact in the society, in the community, or in the environment at local or global level, without being able as well to manage efficiently the finances that are generated by the enterprise that we are running. A strategy is needed and is necessary for multiple reasons. First of all, you might want to guarantee self-efficiency. So being able to make so that your business is able to sustain itself and to pay all the expenses that, of course, you have in terms of materials that you need, equipment, the different people that are working for you, and so on. And these expenditures be sustained directly by the incomes that you get from the social business that you are running. Another reason for having an efficient financial management system is also like being able to properly pay employees, but also like the people that are providing materials and services to us, and in a timely manner, and to avoid kind of mistreatment from this point of view. Be able to comply also with financial regulations and avoid fines. Of course, the social enterprises are not an abstract entity which is completely outside of the legal or financial system. So we need to make sure about the financial regulations that there are in the country in which we are operating, and we want obviously to avoid that we can have any kind of troubles. Last but not least, last point that at least I wanted to underline is by having an effective financial management, you can also manage to have enough resources to start up new projects, services, or other possible ideas that can improve you to even achieve further your social mission and objective. A question that sometimes we receive is about what does it mean, like social enterprise, and aren't we like losing our social objective if we take care too much about how much we earn or how much money is coming in from the business itself? Well, actually, like first of all, there is a sentence that I like very much, which is that all businesses are social businesses. All of them are dealing with people. Customers are choosing one or another service depending on many different points of view, which is not only how much good your service is or how much quality you provide and how cheap it is, but customers also choose in terms of what kind of impact you can have on the people, including your employees, but also like at a global level, and also like what kind of impact you have on the environment and on the planet itself. So a modern concept of enterprise should take care about making sure that these three dimensions are somehow balanced, in order to have something in the middle, which is a good revenue, which is anyway taking care about these other two aspects of the people and the planet. What we have to keep in mind is for sure that the mission of a social enterprise anyway should be to generate a social or an environmental impact rather than economic profit. This is something important in terms of ethics to keep in mind, and as I believe that it should be for a social enterprise the main compass that should provide you direction on where to go, what decisions to make, what are your values, and what you want to do, and what instead like is going against the principles with which you built up your main idea. On the other hand, incomes are not a profit, of course. It's not something that you redistribute to shareholders, but it's for sure something that can be useful again to achieve this mission and objectives that you have, and to provide possibilities for new projects and new ideas that can support this idea further. Some of the questions that the new social entrepreneurs have often are about finances. Of course, when it comes to the fear that the new entrepreneur has when starting a business, especially if it's totally the first experience is about the financial aspect and about having losses or not being able to pay for debts and sustain it, but also like where to find the initial capital to invest, because of course like you need to have an initial capital in order to start up your social enterprises. Now, compared to traditional businesses, the social enterprises might have, and again, it depends on the regulations and also on the kind of business that you have registered, if it is a charity or a non-profit organization, or if it is a for-profit entity. But some typical ways to start up with this capital is of course like recurring to different donors in this case, but also investors. So not only investors that want to have a return on capital on the kind of product or service that you are providing, especially because it might be that, especially in the beginning, you are not able to provide a good enough return on capital from that side, but as well donors that might want to invest in your social business idea for many different reasons. Another very useful method to raise up enough capital to start is the crowdfunding. There are several platforms that you can use and find to finance your new idea and try to have people that want to support it in different ways. Also, the social enterprises can develop different projects. So often the social enterprises are relying as well on different donors that are asking them to provide an idea of some services that they want to realize for a given period of time within, again, the objectives and mission of their organization. But also there might be, and this is again an invitation for you to look well in what you have available in your local environment, especially. There can be the possibility to use some local funding. So often it happens that municipalities or foundations or even national programs are calling for new enterprises or social enterprises to be created, and you can participate in that. When I say like new enterprises or social enterprises, what I mean is that, again, the social enterprise is to be considered as an enterprise in all matters for this. So if there is a call for certain enterprises that want to have a startup capital and the municipality is providing it to them, if they are falling into certain categories, most probably also your social enterprise idea could enter into this package. Another thing that you can do, there are also like several competitions from time to time that you can take part to, hackathons or different competitions that are run either by universities, again, municipalities, private foundations, and so on, where the best ideas are provided with a capital to start and to have at least the base in order to be able to start up their own business. And another very interesting, I believe, idea is to try to look for assets rather than economic support. So often for donors is much easier to actually provide, for example, a room where you can run your own social enterprise or building where to do it, or different kinds of equipment, for example, rather than direct economic support. So to look for someone that can provide you these assets that are useful for you to run your social enterprise can be a way to have some costs covered without having actually to ask for money directly. This, of course, includes the fact that if you are trying to raise money, if you put a kind of specific objective, which can be, for example, to buy a certain building in order to build up the place where you are planning to provide services for elder care, might be more identifiable and easier for funders and donors to provide money than if you just ask that you want 50,000 euro to start, just to make an example. Budgeting, of course, is something that it's very important, and it's something that you have to do, especially in the beginning of a social enterprise. Of course, like this requires planning. It requires checking what are the available prices in the market. It requires possibility to network and to try to obtain different kinds of deals with different people that are providing us the different assets or costs, and it requires time for sure. So there is an investment before starting to run our social enterprise, as for any enterprise, in terms of research that we need to do in our local environment. Some things that are important to differentiate is the fixed assets that we have, and that they are like either machineries or buildings or furnitures, computers, room, equipment, everything that we need to have on a stable way in order to run our business. But of course, we have to keep in mind that these things as well can deteriorate or will not be modern anymore at a certain point. So in a long-term planning, we need as well to take care about the fact that in 1 year, maybe we will need to do some maintenance, and in 3 years or 5 years, depending on what we are talking about, maybe we will need to change. Hopefully also because our business maybe grew up, and so it's not enough anymore to have a small room where we can provide service to 5 people at the same time, and we need one where we can accommodate 20, for example. Then there are fixed costs, which can include in general the rental, fixed at least again for a given amount of time, which is long term, insurance, the wages of the employees that we have, etc., etc., and variable costs, which instead depend on the production and on different other aspects. For example, the fuel for vehicles that we are using, advertising, depending on how much we need to invest from month to month, the part-time or subcontracting that we might have for experts or people that are running just specific functions in our social enterprise, and the maintenance that I mentioned before. It's important, of course, also to understand how much each of these costs, and to differentiate among all of them. Because in this way, we will have the understanding on how much money we need in order to start, or what kind of materials we need in order to start, or what kind of materials we already have and in which ones we need to invest in order to start up our social business service. Keep in mind as well that these aspects can have a different economical impact on our social enterprise, as I told, some of them might be easier to ask if you are looking for support from external donors or different kind of entities that can provide you support. Some of them usually are paid by the direct revenues that you have with your social business, while some of them can be accounted as expenses of specific projects, and some of them not. This, of course, is a part of project management skills, but if you are applying for a certain grant to for example, start a new project of a given amount of time within your social enterprise and provide service for a specific target group, for example, you might, for example, have as eligible expenses the wages of your full-time personnel, and maybe you have as well the possibility to pay for materials that you might need, but maybe some fixed cost like the rental is not included there, or it might be that like subcontracting is not included in the eligible cost. So always pay attention when you are receiving the different kind of support in economic way or not from different donors or sponsors, what you need to provide them in order to account for what they gave you. If it is just reporting, or if you need any kind of invoices and stuff, what kind of expenditures are eligible or not, as there are different types. Budgeting, of course, again, like needs to be used in a way in which you are accounting what actually you are going to spend every month. So you have to understand what is the minimum price per unit that you need to provide in case you are providing a product, or per service, for example, per month, if you are providing a kind of service. And then, of course, like the multiplication of the price per unit by the number of units will give you the total income that you will have. So you can understand by this basically how much you need to sell in order to overcome the expenses that you have and reach out the break-even point in which it starts to be your surplus. I use this word surplus instead of profit because, as we told, like most of the time, the surplus is reinvested within the business or in different ways, but we will talk about later. So with this scheme, you can make some calculation about what are the total costs that you have per month, but also like what are the total expenditures that you might have. Keep in mind that there can be variables, so something can change from one month to another, and there can be like unexpected things to pay. I don't know, maybe a fine appears, it's something that can happen, or some costs are raising, or different other things. And also, like one thing to really keep in mind is when do you have to pay for your costs and when you will get instead the income. This is very important in terms of planning, because sometimes you need to pay at a certain moment of the month, but usually the main part of your customers are paying by the end of the month. So if you don't have a sustainable system in order to make sure that you have enough funding to pay for the cost when they are needed, you might find yourself with your bank account empty because you didn't receive yet the payment from the previous month, and with the creditors that are asking you to pay for the services and products and materials that they provided you. This can be an example of one way to monitor the expenditures and incomes that you have, keep track of what is the opening for each month, but also like what kind of incomes you are having in each of the months of the year. An year is a good timing, I believe, to plan for your financial aspects, as 1 month contains like usually too many variables. And then in the end, you can calculate the balance. So in this frame, in this scheme, you can check what was your expectation, so the budget that you put for every month, and also the actual expenditure or income that you actually have. And by that, you can adjust the following months in order to try to comply with what was your initial plan. This can give us the possibility to fine-tune our business and understand what we have to refine. In terms of accountancy, I give you a little bit of tips. The first one, I don't stop to repeat it, is to make sure that you comply with the national regulations, because in every country there might be like different ones. So check everything which is related with your field, your area. Also, like make sure that if you want to appear as a social enterprise, you are ticking all the boxes that are needed in order to be considered as one. But also, like make sure that you know all the advantages. For example, if there is any kind of tax reduction for your kind of business, and so on, because of course it can give you very important advantages. Track all the expenses that you make and incomes that you have, and make sure to have relevant invoices or receipts. Paper talks, or in this time of the world, even like electronic paper talks, but it's important to have a trace of everything that moved and not to have it just in mind. Because of course, like whoever checks will not just believe. Keep updated books about your expenses and incomes. So this is better to do it like as much as you can regularly to avoid that then you have to reconstruct or try to find documents that you missed and make it very complicated for you to later on have a healthy accountancy. Make sure that like your accountancy is following the regulation that different donors or sponsors might have, or if you are working, for example, with embassies or different bodies from different countries, that there are actually like documents that are making all of them happy in terms of accountancy. One thing that I think like it's very important in case you realize that this is really like too much for your actual knowledge, hiring a professional to keep your accountancy is not a crime at all, and is instead like an expenditure which can be very relevant to have and will avoid you a lot of headaches. As well, like I told already, but remember that there might be some surprises. Also, some fines could appear, especially in the beginning of your social enterprise, because maybe some things were recently changed or you were not informed enough. This is like part of the game, but it's better to have, let's say, some kind of extra pocket where you can manage these expenditures in case they are needed. Good accountancy can improve your performance and give access to new possibilities. And in terms of that, how to use the surplus? So the question is, since we are not aiming at dividing profit among shareholders, what do we do with this surplus? First of all, remember that the surplus is counted after paying for all the expenditures, the workers and the people that worked in your social enterprise. So everybody needs to be fairly paid as it is planned since the beginning and following again national regulation. And of course, like the surplus is not making anyone richer, but can provide a very good bonus for your social enterprise. Typical ways of reinvestment is, for example, to improve your own services and quality, or buying additional equipment that you might need, maintenance, as I mentioned before as well. But also you could, for example, create some actions for the community. For example, some special, I mentioned here, since we are near the time, Christmas events for people with fewer opportunities, or a big sport event which is held for free for the community, or other examples. Another way to reinvest could be to create a new service or product for your social enterprise that you can launch in line with your mission and your values, and supporting you to achieve the objectives that you have. And also, like last but not least, you can donate as well to different other charitable organizations. In terms of this, I think that like for a social enterprise especially, it is very important to be transparent and to make sure that everybody in the community, and especially your customers, know what you are doing with this surplus, and they can make sure that there is not any kind of profit instead that is just for pockets of people that are part of the enterprise. This is all from me, and I would like to thank you very much for the attention so far. And of course, like when there are questions, you can put them in the chat if you want. We still have about 20 minutes to finalize our webinar today, and I am very happy to have with me as well one guest today, which is Emanuele, is here as well in the Zoom call and appearing now. Emanuele is currently the president of one part of an entrepreneurs association in Italy, which is called Confcommercio. Is the president from the regional part in Sardinia, but from the national Confcommercio organization. Is one of the biggest organization which is uniting entrepreneurs from Italy, and of course, like entrepreneur himself with 5 different bars and restaurants, which is owning, as well as other different enterprises. And today he's going to tell us a little bit about how it was his beginning in this field, and also especially how it was difficult to manage with finances and lessons that were learned during the experience. Manu, whenever you want.
Ciao a tutti. Hello everyone, and I'm honored to be here with you. And I want to apologize from the beginning for my Italian way of speaking English. I'm sure that at least at the end of my time with you, you will have more knowledge of Italian accent than the rest. Just to give you some info about me, Federico briefly explained what I'm doing, who I am in my job. My company mainly is in the hosting services, so like restaurant, bar, and clubs. We do also give advices for all the people that are organizing big events, like big concert of 50,000 people, in order to have advice how to work on the food and beverage services. And at the moment, my company, even if it's a small company, is rated around 2.5 million a year, and we do have like 32 employees. Just not to tell you how bravo we are, because we are still a small company, but just to tell you which is the end of the story that I'm going to tell you now. My story, I will try to make it really small. Started at 26 years old. Now I'm 43, so is a long journey from the time, even if I'm working in the same sector since I was 14. And what basically has happened is that when I finished university, in Italy it was not really easy to find a job, so I jumped directly in working with some other friends in a small bar. Then this story started to be something like all the story of everyone. Like everybody just didn't want to start to carry on because the turnover of the work was not really good, and I just take charge of it, and I just involve myself in doing it without actually have any knowledge of how a company has to be run, because I was good in working in a bar, but I was not having any knowledge of what is to run a company, anything about the business. And the story is a story of 20 years of company, where we basically just struggle all of these years, because as Federico was explaining in the exposition he was having before, to know how to run a company is completely another part of being an entrepreneur. Because you can be the best person in doing what you are doing, because of course, if you run a company, first of all, you should have a passion on what you are doing. There is no one that can be good in his company if he doesn't have a desire of being good in being a barman, or be a waiter, or generally to do whatever you want. I mean, you cannot sell something to people if you don't want to stay with the people and do the job. But then the financial part is the most important. When we started, we just were nice friends that wanted to have everyone with us. So the people were coming in our bar. We were putting nice music, having good drinks, be nice, and with a big smile with the people. But at the end of every month, basically we were every time zero net. And even if we were trying to understand why, because of course, if you don't have knowledge, the first things that you think is like, oh, but I'm selling my drinks and in the right price. I'm just making too much discount to the people. But even if we were following the classical rules that in all the books and in all the studies they can give you, which is like 10% of the income has to be the rent, 30% has to be the employees, 40% has to be the general expensive, then the 10% is your net. Even if we were following that, we were completely not in the position to understand anything. So what we did basically, after around 7 years of going like this, even if we were increasing the way of making our business, even if we we were starting to be even famous in our city, because all the people were coming in our clubs because we were having a names around. The fact is that we were just taking the price for ourselves, the wage for ourselves, but never having any net for us. And so this is why we went to in this office where there are people that can advise, and we started to make some courses where the first things that we realized is that if you don't have any strategy that you have to put in place before you are starting, you will keep on fail, because yes, maybe you can be lucky, but maybe you're 1 in 100 people, and the other you are going to suffer. You are going to just fail every time. And the strategy that you have is something that you have to tailor-made on yourself. You have to make, probably all of you always hear these things about the business plan. The problem is that everybody, when they speak about a business plan, they just make a really easy calculation. Okay, you know, I want to create a shop of nice dress. I want to place it in this nice street. In this nice street, there are like 1 million of people that are passing. I think I can sell €1 for each people that are passing. I will make 1 million more. But in reality, it's not like that, because first you have to create your strategy. You have to watch what your competitors are doing. You have to follow the trends that are in economical bureau, in the Chamber of Commerce that are there, and you have to study them. You have to know which is the taxation, and you have to know which is the how to say, the circulation of your business. Because, for example, in the restaurant and bar enterprises, you have a lot of cash flow, and it looks to you that you are doing a lot of money because you have normally a lot of cash flow that are coming to you every day. But those money, the first error that a lot of my colleagues do is they think they are their money and they spend them, because then you have the cost at the end of the month or at the end of the season. Because sometimes you take your, let's imagine that you take the beer at the beginning of the month. When you are going to pay it is at the end of the month, but you are taking and collecting money every day. If you don't make a strategy and you know when is your exact time of paying the things, the bill, and you have like, for example, in my business, there is one of my business partners that basically every day he make calculation every day in all the companies if the strategy that we have set in the beginning of the year is how to say, is coming according to what is the flow of every day. And if you don't do it, for sure you will have something that is failing. That at the moment now I cannot tell you which many possibility can be, but it can be that, for example, you have your employees that I don't know, maybe there is something bad between them and they are not pushing as they have to do. Or maybe there is a new competitor that is close to your street and is doing a better work than you. Maybe your way of making your business is not the best as you always do. And the only way how you can find it out is to go on the on the elements that you have in your strategy. Because if your strategy doesn't pair to what is going on in your business, you will always fail. And the big issue that all the businessmen have is when they don't follow this path, that you have to follow it every day. When we started to follow this kind of strategy, basically all our companies has changed. And this is according to your country, because, for example, in Italy, every time that you make an investment, the government give you the chance to have tax back or to have some investment in order to pay a part of your business. If you don't follow these, let's say, windows that your tax policy give you, you will never grow up. Because most of the people think that they have to grow up with their own cash flow. This is impossible. There is not any company that can grow if you don't work with the banks and if you don't work with your tax system. Because it's quite impossible. Really, I could give you a lot of example how in Italy goes, because at the end in Italy, probably you have the highest taxation in Europe. But really, there are a lot of other countries that, because they have more possibility to have grant by the bank, they mainly works with the bank money. And again, when you are working with the bank money, the things that you have to think is that you have to put in your strategy the fact that you are working with the money that are not yours, and that you have to pay also the interest. So I will make a small example. When you have a financial strategy, let's imagine that you are doing my work, that you are a entrepreneur in restaurants like me. When you are thinking how to sell a plate of pasta, you don't have to calculate that the pasta cost €1, the chef cost €1, and you want to sell it at €7 because so you have €5 of net. No, you have to think all the costs that you have inside your company, which it means the rent, the tax, the employees, the electricity, and all the list that you can imagine. But also you have to charge on that calculation all the things that can happen during the year. And you have to save like a reserve of, let's say, unluck events, like they steal you something, or an employee has a problem and cannot work, or maybe there is a new work in the street and the people cannot come, which we call it reserva in Italy. So I think in English is reserve. At least you have to reserve 10% of your income in order to go there and be safe, because if something happens, you are completely out of your business. Plus, also, if you are using the bank money over there, you have to calculate that every time you are using that €1 in order to buy the pasta, it's not €1, it's €1 plus how much is the cost that you are supporting in order to have the money from the bank. So it will be not €1 for you, it will be maybe €1.10. I know that it looks like a silly thing that I'm telling you, because probably all of you are like, yeah, I know that it's like this. But trust me, most of the entrepreneurs doesn't do this calculation, because in the beginning of your business, you are too much into the things that you have to check everything, and you forget your strategy. Your strategy is the most important that you can have in your business. Actually, I think the strategy and the financial part is even more important in doing your job. Because yes, you can have your idea, you can be the best in your business. It can be in selling clothes, it can be in working in construction or whatever. If you don't have a strategy, if you don't make your calculation, you're completely out of the business. And I know that I could stress more on this part, but I think mainly you should focus on this, because you can, for example, when I work as a food and beverage manager into the big event. Now, for example, we are going to work in an event that is, okay, I cannot tell you the wait, okay, Christina, when you're starting a project, how can you find the best investors and how can you convince them? Okay, Christina, I will quit a second the part that I was telling you. When you work in the big events, you have to make calculation that goes in all the person that you have, but also in all the problems that you might have. And the calculation of the problems that you might have is the experience that you have that come in all the events you did. So, for example, when I create an event of big concert, I create a lot of possibility. Even if somebody tell me that I'm paranoid, but I'm paranoid, and this is why I make the things for me good. For example, I imagine that in those events of 50,000 people, the electricity shut and you cannot sell beer anymore for a time. What happened when you have a shut of electricity? Of course, some of you can say, okay, I have another engine. No, what you do is you take more ice, because if you have more ice, you can use it in order to put it in the engines in order to pull more the beer. Or, for example, I have a lot of other crazy things that if I tell you, you are like, oh, you're crazy. But trust me, a lot of time, those things get real, because when you work with public, a lot of things can happen. So what I'm telling you is, when you're a businessman, an entrepreneur, be paranoid. But what I mean is that you have to always try to solve problems when still there are not problems, but your skill in solving problems, that is your way of making an income. So before Christina was asking me, what is the best way of finding investors? The best way of finding investors is to convince yourself in order that that can be a good idea. Because if you want to sell something that you are the first one that you would never buy it, so basically don't go in that direction. A good things in be someone that attract an investor, you have to work in your reputation. I know that now, okay, I'm a kind of old entrepreneur. When I was doing my first business in the beginning, it was impossible to think to find investors outside. I mean, the only investor that you could find, it was your family or the banks. The banks, if you were without any kind of reputation in bank, they were not giving you anything. Your family basically was your investors. So what I tell you is, when you are thinking to find investors, imagine that you are going to your family. And what you want to do with your family is to, of course, not go there and beg, Papa, please, or Mama, give me money. What you do is like, you try to be as smart as possible. You try to, even if they know that you are a lazy one, that you want to stay in the bed, you have to show them that you are proud, that you are going to go straight with your business, that you are sure that you want to do good with your business. But it's really important that you give elements. You cannot go there and just show that you are good. You have to show your business plan that has to be as much as real as possible. This is why a lot of time that somebody is pitching in order to, for example, find money in order to create a chain. Let's imagine a pizza chain. The first thing that you have to do, you have to create one pizzeria, work on it, have data, and then go to the investors and say, look, I have one pizzeria. I invested 100,000 euro. My income is 3,000 euro. In my 3,000 euro of income, I'm doing like, let's imagine 40,000 of net. So guys, if you invest me and you give me the chance to open 4 pizzeria, I can give you 160,000 euro of income, which is a lot. This is basically the things that you have to do when you go to find investors, because you can have the best idea of the world, you can have the best project of the world, but if you don't show them the results, the elements, the data that you are going to provide, nobody will trust you anymore. Because now the people, if they have money, because of course we have to also to divide investors into way. You have the people that just give you the money because you know, they like the idea and they know that they are trashing the money, or basically they are gambling, and they are just, okay, this is a crazy idea, it can work. And there are people like this, but it's not me, and probably they will not approach you. But the people that are working on money, basically, if they have money, they are comparing your investment to the other that they have. So maybe they think, if I put the bank in the money in bank, I will have a passive income of 2%, 1%, but it's good, no risk. If I put those money in obligation of the state, 5%, it's good. If I put it in buying an apartment, because you know, buying an apartment is one of the big investment without risk in the world. Okay, if you're not in an earthquake place. And what's happened is that basically probably they will have like a 7% without a risk. But if they are going to invest in you, first of all, they will have a risk feeling, and this is you giving your how to say your perception of what your job is going to be good. But then also you have to give them data. You have to show them that in investing in you, they will have like 15%, 20%, or whatever. This is the only way. It's very hard to convince people, but remember that if you don't want to do it, you cannot even do a work as an entrepreneur, because even when you are selling things to the clients, you have to convince them that they are coming in the best place in the world. Because whenever you open your place, of course, your friends, the neighborhood, they will come for give a try one time, but nobody will help you, no family and whatever, because business is a very difficult thing. And if you're not good in it, I'm sorry, nobody will help you. And you have to really convince your client, which are actually you are small investor, in order to then go up. So I know that my Italian probably doesn't give you all the things that I want to relate you, but if you have any question, I'm here, Federico, maybe 5 minutes more to give you info.
Thank you, Manu, first of all, for your story and your interesting insights about the entrepreneurial world. If there is still any question in the chat, we can take a few more minutes to answer. But meanwhile, thank you really for all the sharing that you have. I was interested when you told about this reserve money, let's say, that you need to keep on a side for unexpected facts, especially because I remember that recently something was happening, accident in your one of your clubs, the flooding of water, and that's like the kind of situation which for sure you have insurance, but when the insurance is going to pay you, who knows? And if you
Federico,
don't have...
that is correct. I can tell you that basically we were going to open after summer season, everything was set. The neighbor from the floor up had a crash of their plumbing system, and basically all our clubs were invaded of water. And yes, okay, you have insurance, you have to insurance, everything is okay. Still, we had to close 7 days. The 7 days in that club is around 10,000 euro. And now they are going to pay us maybe next year. But if you were not having reserva, you could not do anything. And basically you are stuck and nobody can help you. And so always you have to go in advance. I know that this is something that, is hard to think, because, you make your business in order to live, and you don't want to just keep money in save in order to use them. But if you don't have any kind of reserve, at the end, you are going to be without any weapon. You don't want to fight a battle without weapon.
Thank you, Emanuele. Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody for following. I think we can call the end of the webinar here. Hopefully it was useful. We have some comments that are telling so.